Congressman Jim Clyburn from South Carolina is the assistant Democratic leader. He's been involved in a lot of these budget negotiations, of course, as a member of the aptly named Super Committee. Congressman Clyburn joins me now. Hello, sir.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, I want to talk about what's going on the Hill today, the markups of these tax bills that are coming from, obviously, the House Republicans. But we heard a little bit from Mitt Romney, at least we overheard a little bit from Mitt Romney about the types of deductions he's willing to eliminate. From what you just heard from our own reporting, deductions that he wants to get rid of on second home mortgages, not first home, deductions for the wealthy when it comes to property taxes and state taxes. Is that how you start dealing with the tax code? What do you make of it?
Well, we had those kinds of discussions in the Super Committee, as well as on the Biden group, which I was a member of. And I think that taking a look at the level of deductions that are allowed on second homes is something that ought to be done. You know, mortgage deductions got a lot to do with encouraging home ownership and, of course, and to create a housing market that is going to help beef up the economy. That is very, very important that we keep that on first home ownership. But when it comes to vacation homes and that sort of thing, we ought to take a look at maybe limiting the amount of deductions that go for those kinds of things. But to eliminate it, I'm not too sure that would not discourage what I would call home building, but it could very well have some limit on it.
Let me ask you this. There's been some polling about this idea. Is the tax code fair? Do people think they pay a fair amount of taxes? And you may not be surprised. The majority think they do. What do you make of that? Is the tax code fair, and do you think people pay a fair amount?
Well, you know, I think the tax code is very, very unfair. I always apply three alphabets when I'm dealing with this. TFH. Transparency. I think the tax code needs to be transparent. I think it needs to be fair. And I think that people need to be honest in dealing with it. And that's the problem we have here. When people try to make the tax code being something that drives job creation, I don't think that's what the problem is. I think that when people go to pay their taxes, as most of them will be doing by midnight tomorrow night, they want to make sure that what I'm paying is a fair assessment, and it's not going to be me carrying this burden while wealthier people continue to get these tax cuts, while big industries that don't need them get these big tax subsidies, and people who are going to work every day making $35,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year, paying a rate of 26, 27, 28%, while the wealthier people pay 14, 16% rate. That is unfair, and we need to be more transparent about it. And
let me ask you
a couple. There's something
go ahead. No, go ahead and finish.
I think there's something to be said about people who park their money offshore, and we don't know exactly what is in those accounts. You know, when we look at despots from foreign countries putting their money in Swiss bank accounts, we always have frowned upon that. And I don't see us saying that people of wealth, especially people wanting to be president of the United States and parking money in a Swiss bank account, that is something
wait, let me stop you here. You're comparing Mitt Romney to a despot?
Well, I'm saying what we do, we always, I'm not comparing, I'm talking about the habit of putting money, hide money in bank accounts. I think there's something wrong with that.
Let me ask you a quick, speaking of campaign donations, had to do with campaign money. New York Times over the weekend talked about how the White House was giving more access to donors, even quoted Patrick Kennedy, a former colleague of yours. He says this, he says, if you want to call it a quid pro quo, fine. At the end of the day, I want to make sure I do my part. I know that they look at the reports, he said, referring to records of campaign donations. They're my friends anyway, but it won't hurt when I ask them for a favor if they don't see me as a slouch. Given how candidate Obama campaigned basically against this culture of pay to play or pay for access. Are you disappointed to see that that's what a former Democratic colleague of yours in the House, Patrick Kennedy, believes is the only way he can get access to the White House?
I don't think that's the only way that you get access to the White House, but I really don't believe that just because I make a substantial donation to the presidential campaign, I ought to be denied access. I think that there has to be some balance here. When I have constituents coming up to Washington over the weekend, especially during the Easter holidays, people wanted to come up, Easter egg roll, wanted to bring their grandchildren. Should I be denied that privilege just because I contributed to the campaign? And I think that that's what we have here, and that's what Patrick is talking about. So it's not that you're paying to play, but I certainly want anybody to say, well, I'm not going to approve this request because, you made a contribution to the president, and somebody may see that as quid pro quo. That's the kind of silliness that we ought not have in this system.
All right, I got to leave it there. Democratic Congressman from South Carolina, James Clyburn. Welcome back from the Easter recess, sir.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
All right. Well, the battle